Paradrama Tales.
Mom sent a message. We changed all the locks on the front door and also the gate code. We no longer trust you. That was the moment I realized I wasn't the son anymore. I was just the wallet. But when they locked me out, they forgot I still held the keys to everything they were standing on. For 4 years, I was the invisible backbone of a house that never had my name on the welcome mat. Every month, over $800 vanished from my account like clockwork. Mortgage, utilities, internet, property insurance. I told myself I was just helping out family sticks together, right? That's what I believed. That's what they counted on. But helping turned into financing, and financing turned into silence. They called me generous. I called it love. In hindsight, I was just funding a fantasy that didn't include me. It started small. A call from mom about a late payment. A quick Venmo to my sister when daycare costs spiked. Then came the storm, the literal one that tore off half the roof. I covered repairs without blinking, because that's what I do, what I did. Until the day I overheard the truth, I wasn't family. I was a sponsor. What hit hardest wasn't the money, it was the erasure. They held birthday parties in my house and captioned them, Lindsay's home. My name never made it into a single toast, not even a throwaway thank you. I scrolled past photos of smiling faces, mom, dad. Lindsay, her kids all standing on a porch I paid for under a roof. I patched surrounded by warmth I wasn't invited to share. And I didn't push back, not at first, because deep down, I hoped they'd see me, hoped one day they'd say it out loud. We couldn't have done this without you, but they never did. They never would, because as long as I kept paying, I was useful, not loved, not valued, just useful. It's funny how you can be the lifeline and still feel like the outsider. Every dollar was a thread holding that house together, but with each silent withdrawal, something unraveled in me. Not resentment, not yet. Just a growing aching awareness. I wasn't part of a family. I was underwriting one. Quietly. Completely. And the second I stopped, they changed the locks. Love in our house always came with an asterisk. Unspoken terms and conditions apply. It wasn't something they said aloud. It was baked into every favor, every birthday, every I love you too that trailed just a little too late. Growing up, I learned early that affection had a currency. You show up, you stay quiet. You give more than you're comfortable with, and in return, you get not love exactly, but access, inclusion, temporary approval until the next demand. My sister Lindsay mastered the system. She knew how to cry without tears, how to pose as the selfless single mom just trying to get by. I never begrudged her at first. She had kids. She needed help, but help turned into a habit. Every crisis became my invoice. Every misstep my tab. She once drained my emergency credit card because her kids needed shoes. Another time, she changed the contact name on the mortgage paperwork to hers without telling me. When I called her out, she didn't apologize. She told me not to make it a thing, as if deceit were just a family ritual, just part of the package. Then came the messages. From my mother. Let's not start a war over a few dollars. The dollars in question, $2,400, taken without permission, spent without discussion, dismissed without consequence. That's when it clicked in our family. My generosity was never kindness. It was obligation. My money didn't buy love. It bought tolerance. And when the money stopped, so did the tolerance. Even the group chat betrayed me. A meme, a joke. Big brother, energy pay. Now, ask never. Cousins tagging me, laughing. My own father chiming in like it was all hilarious. It wasn't. It was a message: you are what you give. You matter as long as you're useful. Stop being useful and you stop being loved. It's one thing to feel unappreciated. It's another to realize appreciation was never on the table in the first place. I wasn't giving to earn love. I was giving because I still believed love could be earned. But love isn't supposed to be conditional. It's not a ledger. It's not a transaction. And when your family treats it like one, you don't need more money. You need an exit plan. It wasn't a phone call. It wasn't a letter. It wasn't even a confrontation. It was a Facebook post, a single photo. That's what finally broke the spell. I was sitting in my car waiting for a grocery pickup, scrolling idly, half present, half exhausted, when it appeared on my feed. My sister Lindsay standing in front of my house, flanked by our parents and her 2 kids, holding a wooden sign that read, "Home Sweet Home." The caption from my mother. So proud of our daughter for building a future we can all share. This home is in the right hands. I stared at the screen like it had slapped me. There was no mention of me, no tag, no credit, no footnote acknowledging the 4 years of mortgage payments, the utilities, the repairs after the storm, the tax bills I'd quietly covered. No hint that their daughter's home was fully financed by the son they now treated like a stranger with a checkbook. The comments poured in. Hearts, hugs, applause. "You're amazing, Lindsay. A strong woman. What a beautiful legacy you're creating." Even our aunt chimed in, "You deserve every inch of that house." I felt a heat rise in my chest. Then something colder. Not rage, not even hurt. Just clarity. A light turning on in a room I'd lived in for years without realizing I was the furniture. A few days later, still reeling from that post, I called the bank, not to make a scene, just to confirm the facts. Yes, the mortgage was still in my name, but then the woman on the line added casually, "There was a recent request to change the primary contact to a Miss Lindsay Carson. The documents are in progress." I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I ended the call and checked my statements. That's when I saw the extra $2,400 pulled from my account, sent to an emergency Visa card I hadn't used in years. I knew the number. Lindsay's, the one I once bailed out temporarily. The theft wasn't just financial, it was personal, and that caption, it wasn't pride, it was the announcement of a transfer, of property, of power, of me erased. That post wasn't just a picture, it was proof. They weren't ashamed of what they'd taken. They were celebrating it. I didn't plan to overhear it. I was just mowing the backyard, their backyard, the one I'd maintained for 3 straight summers. The mower sputtered, so I took a break, grabbed my water bottle, leaned against the fence. The kitchen window was open. Their voices floated out like a punch disguised as laughter. "Lindsay, first, did you see his face when I told Aunt Karen the house was mine? He didn't even blink, like a puppy just happy to sniff the plate." They laughed. My mom's voice joined in. "It's almost done. Once the paperwork's through, he won't be able to say a thing. He's the one who kept it in his name. That's on him." Another chuckle. Then Lindsay again, cool and sharp. "Honestly, it's better this way. He's always been distant, like a guest with a wallet." And finally my mother, with that same voice she used to sing lullabies when I was a kid. "He's not family anymore. He's just a sponsor." That one word, sponsor. It was the kind of sentence you don't forget. Not because it hurts, though it does, but because it clarifies. Everything made sense in that instant. The casual betrayals, the jokes at my expense, the Facebook post, the financial silence. I wasn't the son, I was the system. I stood there frozen, letting the water bottle drip down my fingers like I was bleeding truth for the first time. No one saw me, no one knew I was listening, but in that moment, something broke, something that had been straining and cracking for years, finally collapsing with no hope of rebuilding. They'd always called it love. I called it support. But they'd called it sponsorship, a one-way contract they never had to sign. That line, "He's just a sponsor," didn't just close a chapter. It burned the whole book, and for the first time in my life, I wasn't sad. I was done. 3 days before the party, I stopped calling it a birthday. That word felt too soft for what it really was, a performance. A celebration of legacy, they said, of family. But I knew better. It was a parade built on my silence, financed by my guilt. And for once, I was done footing the bill. I sat down at my desk and opened a spreadsheet I'd avoided for months. Not because it was hard, because it was honest. Every mortgage payment was $800 a month. 48 months. Every roof repair, every Wi-Fi bill, every last-minute Venmo transfer when Lindsay's emergency came knocking. Groceries, babysitting, gas money, new tires, birthday gifts for kids I barely saw. All of it dated, documented, undeniable. The total $211,723.84. I didn't round it, not even by a cent, because love had been rounded for years, rounded down, dismissed, erased. This time, every dollar had a name. Then I added the screenshots, the group chat memes mocking me, the text where my mom called $2,400 a few dollars, the audio clip clear sharp of her saying I wasn't family anymore. I layered them all onto a USB drive and printed the invoice. 201 pages, each line a receipt, each one a memory I had paid to forget. This wasn't revenge, it was reconciliation, the kind that comes with a ledger, not an apology. People always say, don't keep score in families. But what if you're the only one playing fair? What if your generosity becomes someone else's entitlement? I wasn't showing up to shame them. I was showing up to balance the books, because if the house was hers, then the debt was too. The venue was everything I expected, over-decorated, overfunded, and under the impression that this family had anything to celebrate. White linen tablecloths, gold trim on the napkins, centerpieces bursting with orchids, and a slideshow of baby photos and beach vacations looping quietly in the background. There were 60 guests, waiters in black ties, cousins I hadn't seen in years. And at the center of it all, my mother in a deep emerald gown, standing like royalty beneath a sign that read, "A house is not a home without family." I almost laughed. I walked in 10 minutes late on purpose. Every head turned. Some smiled with confusion. Others shifted uncomfortably in their chairs. Lindsay caught my eye, blinked, then looked away, as if pretending I wasn't there would make me disappear entirely. I said nothing, took a seat in the back, watched. First, Lindsay's speech full of syrup and selective memory. This year brought us closer. This home is our anchor built with love, passed down with purpose. No mention of me, not even a lie to smooth it over. Then came the toast. My mother stepped up, dabbed the corner of her eye with a tissue like she was auditioning for a daytime drama. I'm proud of my daughter. She's shown us all what legacy really means. And I know this home is finally in the right hands. That's when I stood up. No anger in my voice, just resolve. Since we're talking about legacy, I said, walking toward the mic, let's do the math. The projector flickered, first audio, my mother's voice clear as day. He's not family anymore. He's just a sponsor. Gasps filled the room. Then came screenshots from the group chat. The invoice, each line item, each dollar, each piece of evidence. I held up the printed bill. If this house belongs to Lindsay, I said evenly, then I'm here not with a gift, but with a bill. This is not a favor. This is a debt. Lindsay's voice cracked from across the room. You're not serious. Dead serious, I said. Unless you want to call it theft. Silence. And then from behind the sound of a door opening, my grandfather stepping in with slow, deliberate steps, ready to deliver the final blow. The morning after the party, I woke up to 57 unread messages, some from family, most from numbers I didn't recognize. But I didn't open a single one. I'd already said everything I needed to say with a microphone, a projector, and 201 pages of truth. I wasn't angry, I wasn't proud, I was simply done. My mother's message came first. You humiliated me on my birthday. You made a mockery of your own blood. My father followed with a threat thinly disguised as defiance. You think you're owed something, you won't see a single cent. And Lindsay silent, as ever, choosing instead to post a black Instagram story with the caption, "Some wounds come from those who were supposed to heal you." The comments were the usual parade. Stay strong, queen. You don't deserve this. Family is the worst. None of them knew what she'd done. None of them had seen the invoice, but someone else had. 2 days later, my phone rang. Unknown number. I let it go to voicemail, but then I played it back. Mr. Carson, this is Daniel Moore. I represent your parents. We'd like to discuss a potential financial resolution. I called back not to negotiate, but to finish what I started. He offered half. I told him I had receipts. He countered with a reasonable compromise. I replied with 2 words, public claim. He went silent for a moment, then said, understood. We'll be in touch. Exactly 72 hours later, the full amount hit my account, $211,723.84, labeled reimbursement settlement, no further liability acknowledged. It came from a private LLC, likely a desperate friend of my father's, or a shell account he used for situations like this. Either way, it didn't matter. I printed the transfer, filed it away, saved copies in 3 separate places. I didn't text them, didn't thank them. I wasn't seeking reconciliation. I was seeking resolution. And now I had it in full with interest. That night I posted a video, clean background, clear voice. Just me saying closure doesn't always come with forgiveness. Sometimes it comes with an invoice and a wire transfer. I blurred out the account numbers but left the total. No hashtags, no rage, just facts. And that was the last time I ever spoke their names in public. They say cutting ties brings lightness. That freedom feels like floating. But that's not how it felt for me. After the wire transfer landed and the silence settled, I didn't feel lighter. I felt clearer, not euphoric, not vindicated, just aware. Like someone had finally wiped the fog off a mirror I'd been staring into for years. Because freedom, real freedom, isn't about escaping the people who hurt you. It's about no longer needing their approval. It's the moment you stop checking your phone to see if they've reached out. It's when you realize their silence isn't punishment, it's peace. I moved into a small apartment. Nothing fancy, just mine. Hardwood floors that creak a little, windows that catch the afternoon sun, and a front door with a lock I control. No group chats buzzing at midnight. No cryptic Facebook posts aimed at my guilt. No more hearing your family followed by, "so you should help." Now, when people ask if I miss them, I don't say yes or no. I say I miss the version of them I made up to survive. That imaginary mother who would one day thank me. That father who'd call to apologize. That sister who'd step up instead of leaning in. None of them ever existed. I carried that hope like an unpaid debt for years, and now I've forgiven myself for doing so. These days I wake up without bracing for impact. I brew coffee not to fuel a frantic day of damage control, but simply because I enjoy the quiet. I stopped waiting for the love I was never going to receive, and started offering it to the one person they never prioritized me. People still say things like, "but they're your family," and I nod. Sure, in the way that a cage is technically a home, if you've never known anything else. But I've stepped outside, and out here the air is different. It doesn't ask me to prove I'm worthy of kindness. It just lets me breathe. Freedom isn't a weight lifted. It's a line drawn. Not to shut people out, but to finally let yourself in. They changed the locks, but I changed the story. Not with a scream, not with revenge, just with truth printed and stapled, 220 pages long. For years I thought love meant staying useful. I thought family meant always saying yes. But silence taught me something louder than their voices ever did. I was never the son they loved. I was the service they used. Now I live on my own terms. No emergency contact, no family chat. Just clean mornings coffee without dread and quiet that doesn't feel like exile. It feels like home. People ask, "Do you ever miss them?" And my answer is simple. I miss the person I hoped they could become. But hoping won't heal you. Boundaries will. If you're watching this and recognizing pieces of yourself in my story, if you've ever felt like love had a price tag, like kindness was expected but never returned, know this: you're not crazy. You're not cruel. You're just finally waking up. You don't have to set yourself on fire to keep others warm. You don't have to call it love when it only leaves you empty. Sometimes freedom costs everything you were told to hold on to. But on the other side of it, there's peace. Real, grounded, quiet peace. If this story resonated, you're not alone. Subscribe for more stories like this ones that don't sugarcoat, but speak from the scar, not the wound. And remember, just because they share your blood doesn't mean they deserve your life. You're allowed to choose yourself, finally.